and welcome to the Jester's Court, the defenders of the unfairly downtrodden. I am your host, Mike, and here with me is our lovely co-host, the one and only Jen, or Mom Thulu, as she likes to be called.
Yeah, I'm here.
She's here this week.
Yes.
And how was... Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and how was your week?
It wasn't bad, but it kind of sucked at the end.
Go on.
Oh, because I got diagnosed with the diabetes.
Yeah, we need to get Jacob back on so you guys can bond over your diabetes.
Diabetes unite, except he's type 1 and I'm type 2.
So you're one type better? Or he's one type better?
Yes.
Who wins? Is it golf rules or is it, we're number one?
His is worse than mine.
His is worse than yours, so you win.
No. I don't think anybody with diabetes wins.
Mr. Brimley won.
So I got diagnosed with diabetes on Thursday, which it's not even really like a terrible case of diabetes. My A1C was just that now just now elevated. So I've been like hyperglycemic for, I don't know, 20 years. And he went in this time and he was like, so your A1C is finally up. And I was like, oh, there it is. So, yeah, I got some new medications and I have to start giving myself shots of Trulicity every but anyway, I get new injections and stuff. So that's a thing. Also, I have a pretty severe B12 deficiency. Like, what the fuck? How do you even become deficient in B12? What even is it?
I mean, it's a vitamin, but I don't know where you get vitamin B from.
Me neither.
Let's see if the Googles can tell us. Where does vitamin B come from?
I don't know, but yeah.
Hey, guess what?
What?
When you turn the Wi-Fi off on your laptop so it doesn't make noise, you can't Google stuff on it.
Oh.
So vitamin B comes from fairies and magic.
Fairies and magic.
Yeah, sounds good.
Check that out.
I myself had a pretty uneventful week.
Uh-huh.
I did attend for United Way the Gulf Coast Culture Fest, which was pretty cool for the little bit of time that I was there.
Mm-hmm.
I have, for those of you who don't know me in person, I have she's half Jewish, but a very Jewish mother who I put a thing on there where I met up with a friend, and she's like, "Ooh, you're getting all important with the United Way. Like, I feel like you might be overstating a bit." Like, I set up a tent and sat there for a couple hours. Like, it's not
right.
I'm not running the joint,
That's funny.
But otherwise, it was a pretty uneventful week.
That's good.
So, do you want to do some shout outs before we get started?
Let's fucking do the shout outs.
We'd like to thank our patrons. You help us keep the lights on. And those patrons are Mr. Kyle Kier, Fire Brandt, Derek Diamond of the Feature Presentation Podcast that newly returned, Mr. Robert Hood, and our personal favorite, Travis T. Mr. Soda Bread, Old Man RPG himself.
Travis!
Who, even though he's a patron, I'm pretty sure he does not listen, so we could basically trash him right now and he would know.
Let's not do that. No.
He would never know.
I don't want to.
Okay. You too can be a patron. Just head on over to patreon.com/the Jester's Court. Our tiers start as low as $3 a month. And now, for our main event, tonight we are talking about... That's right. Tonight we are talking about 2002's Cabin Fever. And I realize, for those of you who can hear the music, I know I wasn't bobbing my head in the inappropriate to the beat because we can't hear it while it's going, for those of you who don't know that. But yes, we're talking about Cabin Fever, the original, the 2002, not the remake they did a few years ago. This is starring Eli Roth, who also directed, Ryder Strong, Jordan Ladd, Serena Vincent, Joey Kern, and James DeBello. And Mr. Kyle Kier is in the chat. He says spooky. It is very spooky. That's literally the first line when I did my notes is spooky music. This film brought in $31 million at the box office off a $1.5 million budget, so financially pretty solid. It currently has an audience score of 44% on Rotten Tomatoes, so kind of a mixed bag with that. This is also a special episode, by the way. Did you know that?
Is it?
So let me tell a little, and actually a little bit more than what I gave you in our outline. This, first off, is on the show by accident. Let me explain. I keep a list of potential episodes that I write down whenever the mood strikes me or something hits my ear to research to see if it fits the parameters of our show. In my mind, I was doing Cabin in the Woods.
Oh.
But I wrote the title Cabin Fever. And then it fit as far as there's people complaining about it. It doesn't have a great score on Tomatoes. And I'm like, we're going to keep it in here. But it marks the very first time for the show, because this is the first time I am not 100% on board sure of the property in question. As we go through the review, you'll note that I am giving bonus points for good ideas and for what I think it could have been. So, a little different this time around.
Well, I'm really relieved to hear that, because when you originally were like, we're watching Cabin Fever, I was like, why Cabin Fever? That movie was terrible. And you were like, no, it's a good movie. But if you had said we were going to watch Cabin in the Woods, I'd be like, oh yeah, no, I like that.
Sadly, I had to check. I think Cabin in the Woods has excellent reviews, so it does not fit our show.
Right.
We might get it on season 2 of Innsmouth.
Man.
So, I feel like, and we'll give more. You know what? I'm going to stop talking because we're going to talk about this at the end. We'll recap. But I'm giving a lot of credit for what I think it could have been and where I saw where they were going, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, let's get to the rundown and see where we end up.
Let's go.
And as I said, first thing I wrote down is creepy music open. Because it is a very, not so much a score, just kind of sounds, and it's really kind of creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. But the movie opens with a man. He looks to be homeless. He's walking up to what is clearly a dead dog, though he has not realized this. He's trying to feed him a rabbit that he caught. It looks like he caught in the woods, we assume. But then realizes that the dog is in fact dead. And not just dead, but it is like completely eaten out, like emptied out from the inside. Like it's like a dog blanket. You pick it up, there's nothing inside but gore.
Yeah.
Pretty nasty, which is pretty much the theme of the movie. It's definitely a gross out horror.
Right.
We flash to our friends heading off on a road trip after their finals. We do have Ross, Rachel, and Phoebe. Wait, that's the wrong list. Our friends are Paul. But no, our friends are Paul, Jeff, Karen, Marcy, and Bert. They're on a road trip. They just finished finals. So, typical 90s college movie experience so far. They pull into this convenience store on the way, and there's this weird kid sitting on the porch swing. Ryder Strong, who plays Paul.
Pancakes. Sorry.
He gets weirder as the movie goes on. Ryder Strong, he plays Paul, and he sits next to the kid, and probably gets bitten. Apparently, the kid bites. And the guy, his dad, who works at the shop, is like, everyone knows that because whatever his name.
His name's Dennis.
Dennis. Okay, yeah. Everyone knows that Dennis.
Not bites. To sit next to Dennis, right? Why'd you go sitting next to Dennis? And everybody's like, because most kids don't bite the shit out of you, like.
Kyle says Paul is dreamy. Paul is dreamy.
Whatever.
Dude, don't be knocking. I almost said Boys to Men. Boy Meets World.
Boys to Men, really?
Yeah, why not?
Wow.
They were both 90s icons, so
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So inside the store, we meet the weirdest shopkeep ever. He's like Santa Claus mixed with Grandpa mixed with half the cast of
Right.
Oh, the movie with Burt Reynolds, Deliverance. Half the cast of Deliverance, with his racist commenting that the rifle was for people of color.
We won't
FYI,
say that out
not
loud,
the word
right?
that he used. But they do retcon that at the end of the movie.
Yes, they do.
So we cut to they have arrived at the cabin.
Mm-hmm.
Paul and Karen take a little walk. Paul is very clearly trying to get out of the friend zone and is shut down
All the time.
promptly. Apparently, he's been in the friend zone with Karen since like they were in 8th grade.
Right.
Meanwhile, Bert is out trying to kill squirrels because Bert is pretty just much fucked up. So
Bert's something.
he has a hunting rifle and he's trying to kill squirrels. Jeff and Marcy are just banging because it's not really a 90s horror movie unless someone's having sex.
Right.
We cut back from gratuitous sex to Bert, who sees a squirrel and shoots, but he hears a human groan. It's our homeless guy from the intro, and he has shot him.
Oh no.
He gets up and he's looking rough. He says he is sick, he needs help. Bert freaks out, which is on track for the rest of the movie. Every time someone's sick, Bert freaks out. He ends up shooting at him to get him to back off, like, get the fuck away from me, get away from me. And he gets back to the cabin and just says not a word to anyone.
Right. He just doesn't. I didn't shoot a homeless guy.
Yeah, nothing happened. I was shooting at squirrels. So it cuts to the group sitting around the fire. It's nighttime now. Paul is telling this gruesome story about a bowling alley employee getting bowling alley employees getting slaughtered, which, by the way, is based on a true story.
Is it really?
Yeah, it almost made my fun facts, but I didn't put them in as a fun fact.
Okay. We'll talk about it later.
No. I didn't put it in as a fun fact, but that is based on a real story that happened.
That's creepy.
I'm sure I didn't go into detail because I didn't add it to the list, but I'm sure it's dramaed up for the movie.
Right.
Like the whole. It can't be all that involved, but it is based on a true story.
Right.
So while they're doing this, random stranger dude is what I'm calling him. His name is Justin or Grim. Just shows up with his dog and gets invited to stay only when he reveals he has a big bag of weed. Like they're like, no, we're full up, private conversation. And he pulls out this bag of weed and they're like, oh no, come sit down. He leaves when the rain starts, promising to return, but spoiler, he does. His dog does though.
Yes, his dog is kind of nuts, though. Like that is.
His dog is basically one of the protagonists at the end of the movie.
Right.
But while they're talking inside, the homeless guy he returns, asking for help. They slam the door in his face, so he decides, I'm going to take the truck. They all run outside. Bert shoots at him, hits the truck. Meanwhile, he's just in there spewing blood, like coughing it all over, like copious amounts of blood. Like no one can survive losing this much blood.
It's everywhere.
So now, because it was split, the group was like, no, we should help him. No, we need to get him away from us. Now no one's on the fence. Everyone's on board with getting him out there. And in the course to try to scare him off, they end up accidentally setting him on fire. Because someone thought it was a good idea to have like a lighter and what looked like hairspray, but the little makeshift blowtorch.
Mm-hmm.
And they light him on fire. Nice people.
Yeah, totally nice.
You're really feeling the love for your main characters here.
Right.
So now the movie comes. It's morning. The group is already starting to turn on each other, which is one of the dynamics of this movie that's kind of cool. They are at each other's throats already. But as the truck is not drivable because, as we mentioned, they shot it.
Right.
So they're stuck. Bert and Jeff head out looking for help. Marcy leaves on her own, also looking for help, and that leaves Paul with Karen.
Right.
It kind of flashes to the homeless guy. So we see what happened to our homeless guy. He died in the cabin's water supply in the reservoir. So that kind of just happens outside of anyone seeing it, but we, the audience, now know the water is screwed.
Right.
Homeless guy is dying in it as we speak. The boys, they find a farm where a woman is slaughtering a pig. She's complaining the pig is sick. Apparently all the animals are sick. And almost they get help, but they find out in talking to her that the homeless guy is actually the farmer's cousin.
Before you move on, I just want everybody to know that the actress that plays this really pissed off lady, she plays also in Sling Blade. as the cashier that Carl goes on a date with.
Oh yeah, that is her.
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
No. She's pissed because all the animals are sick.
Right.
So they're talking to her. She's like, "Oh yeah, we can get you help. I got a guy. I can get a truck, get you all fixed up." But before they get like sealed the deal, she mentions that they're talking about the guy who attacked him, and she's like, "That can't be Henry, can it?"
Henry. Oh,
Yeah, it's her cousin. They
right.
murdered her cousin. So rather than get caught and tell her what happened, they bail. So now the story catches up with Marcy. She's on a canoe and has crossed the lake. On the other side, she's found a house. Inside the house, she finds not help, but she finds Jeff and Bert, who apparently were meeting them up there. There's no one else home. Back at the cabin, while this is happening, the cop has arrived. He does not seem to be concerned at all with the story, including about the guy being. I don't think he mentioned.
Oh my
being burned,
god, this guy. This cop is like something
he's
else.
played by what's his name? Giuseppe.
Yes.
I can't think of his last name.
No, I don't think you're. I don't think you're talking about. I think who you want to say is like Giovanni Ribisi. It's not Giovanni.
No. His name is
Giuseppe.
Yeah.
I don't think that's right.
It is absolutely correct. I just can't think of his last name. Give me 1 second. We're gonna solve this.
Solve your mother.
Solve your mother. I don't know how that works for anything, but okay. Cast. Giuseppe Andrews playing Deputy Winston. Thank you very much.
Well, Deputy Winston is just concerned about partying all the time. He is like the worst possible.
Yeah, he's like, yeah. We'll file a report. Don't worry about that guy. I'm sure you scared him off. I'm gonna have a tow truck out here tomorrow, and then he rides off a little. It kind of tells you how good of a cop he is. He rides off on a bicycle.
Yeah, right.
That's gonna come back later. His skill.
Right.
So yeah, Karen and Paul started up. By which I mean they're trying to get busy. But wait, Paul, that's not what you think it is. Paul is moving his fingers downstairs, and right when the squishy sound effects start to get a little pornographic,
it's like, so gross.
Like I shouldn't be hearing squishing noises like this. He pulls his hand up and realizes it's covered in goo.
It's not covered in goo. It's covered in blood and sticky and pus and yuck and
which is goo.
So gross. It's not just goo.
We pulled the blanket back, and Karen has been sick, and there's a hole in her leg, and at least I gotta think he got on target at least at first because she looked like she was enjoying it.
Yeah, and then he went straight for the leg hole.
There at the end, he was not in the.
He was not in the right area. He was in the leg hole.
Yummy. Yeah, this movie is gonna make you want to not eat for a while.
It's so gross.
Bert once again is freaked out because anytime someone's sick, he freaks out.
But how did Paul not notice the blood all over? Because I mean, it shows the sink in the corner, and why is there a fucking sink in the corner of her bedroom? But like in the corner of the sink, how did he not notice like the blood that was everywhere?
Because he was slinking in on his sort of sick friend, and he was trying to get
He was trying to get it in, right?
He was not looking at other stuff. Kyle says in chat, like boots stuck in mud, only wetter.
Oh, gross. No, Kyle, bad.
So yes, Bert freaks out. They shut her in the room. They go out into the living room. They're checking each other for sores.
They forgot to check Bert's underwear.
Bert's not sick yet.
Okay.
Bert does not get sick yet. He's the next one to get sick. Spoiler, but he's not yet because he's not drank that water yet.
Right.
They check each other for sores. For now, they seem clean, so they decide to move Karen to the shed. And do not give yourself any illusions of it being a nice shed. It is not.
Nope, it's not.
There's no lights. The door doesn't even close all the way. It's the dirt floor, but this is what we're doing. Quarantine. Paul goes out looking for help and finds the house across the lake. But unfortunately, rather than getting assistance, they catch him looking in the window, and the husband, there's a husband and
He's
wife.
like, "That's my wife," and
Yeah,
he's
so he gets chased off with no help.
right.
So it flashes to the next morning, and we have some success in the group. Bert has the truck running. But did you notice the duct tape on the front?
No, yeah, yes, I did.
They literally they implied that he fixed it with duct tape because there's now duct tape all over the grill of the truck.
Right.
They fight over how sick Bert is being because now he has. This is what he drank the water finally. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I skipped the line. They check on Karen, who is much worse. Meanwhile, Bert is showing symptoms because the night before he did drink some water, and the water, as we all know, is bad. They get in a fight again about how sick Bert is, and he ends up leaving in the truck on his own for help. Jeff goes off again on his own because the others keep touching Karen, and he is not getting sick.
Right.
So he has a little hissy fit and runs off. Now Marcy and Paul, it's their turn to get it on because Paul, who was like all hung up on Karen, apparently is now just.
He just wants to get it in.
And apparently he has the virus dick because everyone he gets it on with gets sick.
Right.
It's not true. She drank tea way out of the water, but I like this theory. Right or strong is passing it through sex. It cuts to Bert, who has made it to town, and he gets bit by Dennis, who, I don't know if you caught this, but Dennis seems to immediately know something's wrong. Like, as soon as he bites him, it's like a bad taste in his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you caught that look, but he was like immediately like, oh no. They can see clearly Bert is sick, and they immediately go into, if you get me sick, if you get my son sick, you're screwed.
Oh my God. This whole, this. Okay. So whenever Dennis hops up off the thing, he goes, pancakes. And then he starts doing martial arts on his way over to bite Bert. And Bert just stands there. Have you ever seen that episode, or not that episode, but that scene in Austin Powers? And I think it's the second one. It may be the first, where they're on the steamroller and they're like, get out of the way. The steamroller's going like 2 miles an hour. And the guy's sitting there going, no. And he just stands there and he screams instead of moving. That's what it was like. I was like, what the hell? And you're right. As soon as Dennis bit Bert, he was like, he knew something was bad. And then his dad comes out and he goes, listen, if you're sick, that's your problem. But you get my boy sick, that's my problem. If I get sick, that's Lucille's problem.
And who the fuck is Lucille?
Right. And he's like, and if Lucille gets sick and you're sitting here going like, what? Like, who the fuck is Lucille? It was like this whole thing. And Bert should have run off like ages ago.
Yeah. I want to say two things. One, the karate scene.
Yeah.
Pancakes. That was not in the script. That was impromptu because the boy is someone's kid. I don't remember who, but he's someone's kid and he knows Taekwondo, and they basically put it in the movie so he can do Taekwondo.
Pancakes. And Bert's like, not fucking pancakes. Oh God, it was.
But and the second thing is that Kyle says Virus Dick is a good name for a band. That's got to be a punk band though. But that's not pop country or anything like that. That's a punk band. Maybe ska.
Maybe ska.
Yeah. So basically, Bert finally does run off, and the dad who works with he gets together a posse because that's the thing that happens. Like, these guys are sick. We're gonna go take care of them. And the one dude says, "I'll get the kit."
Right.
What kit? What kit? Does kid do this all the time? Is there like a protocol for if there's a camper getting sick?
No.
And the kit apparently is just a truck and some guns.
Right.
But we'll get back to that. Meantime, we flash back to the cabin, and Paul has gone off again. Keeps fruitlessly going off on his own to find stuff.
Right.
This time though, he finds the reservoir and our homeless guy dead in it.
Right.
And then promptly falls in. Because
that sounds like fun.
Because you see a dead body floating in the reservoir, and you're like, I have to see if it's the guy we killed.
I have to stick it with a stick, right?
Let's see if it's the guy I killed.
Play with it.
Is there anyone else in the woods that has been caught on fire? Like, clearly this is the dude you killed. Like, anyway, Paul is now obviously going to be infected, but now he knows how it's spreading. And as promised, we now cut back to Bert, who's being chased in the woods by the good old boy squad. first in a vehicle until his vehicle dies, and then gets out on foot. We cut back to the cabin. Marcy is now in full outbreak. A very, very gruesome looking scene where she's shaving her legs and keeps shaving even after like it's bloody and visceral coming off. She realizes eventually that she's sloughing off skin, steps outside, and our dog we talked about, Justin's dog, who's been basically hunting the camp for the last day or so, she gets him. She did. The dog got her and Karen. Paul returns, finds pieces of Marcy across the yard, and Karen half-eaten but still alive. So he finishes the job with a shovel because, you know, these guys are all about the good deeds. As he walks out, Bert is there, half dead, and warns them that the good old boys are coming because they said they're going to get the cabin and everyone. So they are ready, and while Bert gets shot when they open the door, Paul manages to take out the other three, pretty brutally. Like, apparently everyone called Paul like a pussy throughout the movie, but he's apparently got
right.
Yeah. He runs off into the woods looking for Jeff, exclaiming, "It's the water! It's the water!" Paul finds his way to a party where Deputy Winston is attending.
It's an underage party too.
Yes, in the course of the dialogue, you find out he's supposed to be finding these underage drinkers. He's there in uniform, drinking with them.
Yeah, he found them all right.
But while he's talking to Paul, he gets a radio call warning about the kids and the virus, and that Paul should be killed, or any of them should be killed on sight. He can't, however, because, quote, his gun is in the truck. So Paul manages to cough all over everyone, knocks out Deputy Winston. Half the kids run off. Half of them are clearly infected. At least a couple of them have to be, because he's coughing blood up on all of them. Paul leaves, makes it to the highway, passes out in front of a truck driver who stops, and you see him just dump him up in front of a hospital. Apparently everyone, including these kids, are assholes. I mean, yes, we know it's a deadly virus that symptoms set in within 24 hours and you're dead within 48. We know this. They don't know this. They just keep finding these sick people and like, fuck those guys, kill them or leave them or...
Right.
And to that point, we're in the hospital. You hear the doctor talking about how they're not set up for this. They need to get them to Cook County, which I guess means we're close to we're in Illinois.
Right.
There's another Cook County somewhere. The sheriff steps in, like, I'll take care of him. Just send it to the car. Okay. They send him away clearly to have him killed. He's like, we'll take care of him.
Yeah, Deputy Winston is the one who takes care of him.
Yeah, that's going to come back in the end, by the way.
Yeah, so you know how well that works out.
But yeah, it's this really awkward scene where Winston is still being all polite and, you know, cool dude, and
hey, party guy, yeah.
But like, you just get the vibe like, oh, he's dead. They're not taking him to Chicago. It does cut to Jeff waking up in the woods, having drank all the beer he took, stumbling around. He makes his way back to the cabin, and of course, we know what he finds: dead bodies galore.
He's like, "I made it! I made it!"
I love this because it's a Night of the Living Dead homage.
Right.
Because he's in the cabin, having survived the night, celebrating. I lived. Yes, I fucking made it. And all of a sudden, you hear gunshots, and there's like 5 cops outside the cabin who all empty their clips into it.
Great way to go.
Oh God, it really is.
He was like, Paul, he's such a dick.
The movie closes with the cops burning the cabin. But wait, here's where Deputy Winston's last gift to the community comes back. You get a shot of kids filling up a cooler to make lemonade, and it pans upstream, and apparently Winston decided he wasn't going to go too far out to dump Paul's body.
Him. Right.
He dumps him in the river right by town, at least close enough that the kids are getting their lemonade water from
Why didn't these fucking kids just get the water from the hose?
If you start asking why questions,
I know.
Kind of falls apart.
Anyway.
So that's our movie. Credits, scene. The whole town, everyone's getting sick. It shows like truck drivers leaving. Like, clearly this is going to go places. That's how the movie ends. So that's our movie. What are the complaints? Mainly what I saw, and this is all over the place. The comedy is misplaced. It often breaks the tension and overall horror. And honestly, Jen, I have to agree. Sadly, the film has some great suspense, but the pacing is so often broken by an out of place joke, and they half the time fall flat. They're like kind of lame jokes.
Mm-hmm.
You absolutely can walk a line of horror and comedy and do it well. I just don't think this film did it very,
It
at
didn't.
least not from timing. Every time you got some good, real tension going, it broke it, not in a good way.
Right.
What do you think?
I hate this movie. I
Uh,
do. Whenever you said we're watching Cabin Fever, I was like, why? Did you really want to defend this? And you were like, yeah. Okay, I'll try. I hate this movie. I
okay,
hate it.
okay. How about thoughts on the complaints and here agree
It's
or
a
I'll
valid
disagree?
complaint because you're right. At times, whenever it needed to be tense and you could really see the issue, then Bert would come off and do something stupid or something funny would happen, and then you're like, well, now I can't even take you guys seriously. Like it's a valid complaint.
It is. It really is. And honestly, that's pretty much it as far as coherent complaints. Most of the complaints were on when I looked them up through the various sites. They're
Mm-hmm.
like little one-liner jokes or just various forms of I didn't like it.
Right,
So I
right.
thought we could take a different path with our extra time because we have some extra time now and go a little bit deeper in the wrap up. What do you think?
I guess let's try.
Let's try. Because this is where I was talking about where I feel like it had potential.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because this is one of his first projects, the director is just I feel like he would do a better job with it
Okay.
that later. But there are some who said that this film was unoriginal, which in this one I'm gonna wholly disagree with.
No, you're right. It is original.
There's clearly some Evil Dead inspiration, and you can't miss, like we said, the Living Dead homage at the end of the movie.
Right.
But it has a definite style of its own, and honestly, it was a great setup for a horror movie.
Yes.
It really is a great premise. And as much as you don't like the film, the acting is way better than you would expect in this kind of movie. Yes.
Yes.
Especially when you consider the fact that whoever wrote the script, which is the director, Eli Roth, I don't know why I said whoever, he really didn't want you to like the characters, did he?
No, he did
Like
not,
these
especially
are
not Bert.
garbage people.
Right.
This is Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but horror. Like these are not good people at all. And then like we've mentioned the problems with the pacing aside, when the film remembers as a horror flick, it's on point.
Mm-hmm.
The effects with the skin rot were amazing.
Oh, yeah, they're so gross.
When it remembers what it's doing, when they're doing what it's supposed to be doing, this film is great.
Mm-hmm.
It's just scattered few and far between, I think. All in all, I would say that it's a pretty good, not great, but pretty good film. I would say high C to B minus. Sound fair to you?
No.
No,
I'd give it a D plus.
a D
Okay.
plus.
Yes. Barely passing. What makes it pass is probably the gross factor. I mean, the gore in this movie is on point. Now, like the coughing up blood scenes and stuff, you can definitely tell that's fake. And we can't really hold that against them because getting blood to look like viral, like emissions is hard because I don't know if you knew this, but they're going for like a hemorrhagic fever, and hemorrhagic fevers, when you spew up blood, you're gonna have like little arterial grains in there, so like little tiny clots. So it'll look like what they should have done is they should have included coffee grounds in it, but that would make it even grosser. However, I'm just getting too technical for it. The gore is on point. There are several times in this movie where I am just really fucking grossed out. Like, ugh. I will just sit there and be like, I can't watch. What?
Oh yeah,
Like
it is a
it's
very
disgusting
it has scenes that are very very good gross out horror.
and graphic, super graphic. So yes, that's what the redeeming quality is in this movie, is that they made this virus really gross.
So you see
But
where I'm coming from, where I give it points for what it could have been.
yes, what it could have been, exactly.
And finally, before we get into fun facts, I want to ask your opinion on something because you are a resident horror expert,
Yeah,
or at least horror fan.
yeah.
I don't know if you call yourself an expert.
I could be an expert.
There's quite a bit of talk about this movie revitalizing the horror genre, and I don't
Oh,
really see that. Maybe I'm not remembering right, but in the broad sense, I don't see that unless they mean specifically this variety. because slasher films pretty much dominated the late '90s, and this is gross out. This is not the same version of it. Also, maybe money wise, because we've talked about a couple of them in our various shows. Uh, Horror movies weren't making a lot of money in the late '90s, and this one made a buttload of money. So you think that's what it was, or what?
No.
What do you think they're
I
talking
think
about?
that I think that they said that to try to make it better so people would want to see it. Like, this is the movie
I'm not
that's going to
talking about the
revitalize
producer
it.
said this. I'm talking about critics and
They were paid to. They were paid to. They had to have been. Whoever said it needs to be taken out and smacked around a little bit because their brain might be a little bit rattled. So maybe we can just get that into place. No, this movie did not revitalize horror. Horror was never in need of revitalization. Because it's you can't have, when you say this revitalized horror, I think what they meant was we provided you an original idea, right? Because a lot of horror is rebooted. It is. Because a lot of stories are rebooted.
Well, yeah, it's 2022.
Right. There's been
There's
so many.
no original. It's when they did the South Park episode. Simpsons did it. Everything has been done.
Everything's been done. So it was an original idea, and I think that's what they meant when they said it. Do I agree that it's no, absolutely no. Just no. There was no need to revitalize horror. Horror movies, the horror genre, it is what it is. And there's always something good about each and every one of them, even the worst ones. So whoever said that, just fuck off. I mean, come on. It was a terrible quote. Continue.
Okay. So, end of the day, this one we're a little more on the fence on than we usually are.
Yeah.
To me, I would say lukewarm popcorn flick, fun to watch. Not great, but okay. Mom Thulu is barely passing, but still passing. This is not a don't, screw off. But we're on the fence. Fair?
Yeah.
So I figured we're gonna put it out to the audience. What do you guys think? Let us know what you think. You can find us at Jester Court Pod, and that's on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We would love to hear from you. See what you think about this film.
Give me the fun facts.
All right, jumpy, Mister. All right. My next line of the outline is: are we ready for some fun facts? Apparently, yes, we are. It took 8 years to get this movie made. Eli Roth wrote the film in 1995 when he was working for Howard Stern. Roth is quoted as saying it took just 6 years just to raise the money. So this was almost a decade to put together.
Nice.
This is interesting. After hearing about cabin fever from several of his Lord of the Rings collaborators, Peter Jackson requested that a print be sent to him in New Zealand, where he was filming The Return of the King. Impressed by what he was seeing, Jackson shut down production on his own film twice to screen cabin fever for his cast and crew. Eventually, Jackson invited Roth to the Lord of the Rings set, where he offered to supply Roth with a quote about the film for his production materials. It read, "Brilliant, fantastic. Horror fans have been waiting for years for a movie like Cabin Fever. I loved it."
Yeah, that tracks.
That tracks.
Though we're talking about the same guy who the line "I kick ass for the Lord" came from. So it tracks.
Yeah.
Or zombies humping. Did I ever tell you about that one?
Peter Jackson, when he's on point, is amazing.
Yeah, when he's off point, no.
He's not a consistent.
No.
Maybe even now he's been consistent the last few projects, but like if you go back the whole breadth of his work, he's not super quality.
Right.
But yeah, Peter Jackson liked it. Director Eli Roth originally got the idea for this movie while working in Iceland on a horse farm. He caught a bad skin infection from rotting hay in the barn that made his face break out in sores, bleed, and it peeled off when he shaved.
Yuck.
Yummy.
I bet that left some pockmarks.
Probably, but he's rich and famous now.
Right.
And last fun fact, this one's just hilarious. If you look closely, the brand of the beer seen on top of the fridge as Jeff takes all the beer and abandons his friends is called Arrogant Bastard Ale.
Nice.
And I couldn't see it. I knew this fun fact when we watched it today. I couldn't see it in that scene, but it is clearly visible. If you rewatch when they pick up the beer at the convenience store, it is clearly visible on the side. It is called Arrogant Bastard Ale.
Nice.
I thought it was funny, especially considering he was an arrogant bastard.
He was an arrogant bastard. Yeah.
All right. guys, so that's our show. Thulu, tell us about Innsmouth. Where we can find you? What's coming up?
You can find me every Monday on the Innsmouth Rag podcast that you can find on Apple and Google and everywhere. Yeah. I have a podcast because I'm a middle-aged white lady, and it's about horror movies. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're talking about Innsmouth. We're talking about Insidious.
Yes, we are currently on the Insidious. We just did chapter 2 of the Insidious 4-part series. So if you want to get all the way through that with us, tune in.
All right, and make sure you tune into us next week. I'm not gonna say what we're doing because I really, 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 really hope we can get Wally in to do our Ghostbusters episode.
Wally.
If not, I will have to have something lined up to replace it. Which this was replaced. It was actually supposed to be this week. Cabin Fever was supposed to be next week.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm out of pre-done shows. I'm gonna have to work one up, and just in case we can't get them. But I really hope we can get them. I've been wanting to do this episode basically since the show started.
Cool.
Wally's a busy man.
He's a busy guy.
Also, I'm still trying to figure out what we're gonna do it on. But if you're a patron, we do have our commentary track coming up for the month, so you can look for that coming up as well. Otherwise, thank you guys for hanging out and have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.